a big moment in my career was when I had a meeting with Scooter Braun and
Oh,
Allison
wow.
Faye. And
Okay.
that was a big moment for me. It was like,
Oh, yeah, that's massive.
yeah, I was 15 years old.
Hi, Sophia. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. My name is Adam, and this is a podcast about you and your journey in music. And we'll talk about the new song Kiss and Tell.
Perfect. I'm super excited to be here.
I appreciate your time. So, first off, where were you born and raised?
Yeah, so I was born in Greenville, South Carolina, and I guess you could say I was raised in both Memphis and Dallas, Texas. So I lived in Dallas for about 7 years and here for about 7. So
Okay. Are you in Dallas now?
yeah, I'm in Dallas now.
Awesome. I have family that's in the Dallas area. They lived in, or
Okay.
they're like Plano area, I think.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I know about it. I went there when I
Right.
was younger and in the summer, and I'm like, it's like 106 here. This is crazy.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy over here too.
But yeah, so that's awesome. So born in South Carolina though, and how long were you there before you moved to, you said Memphis?
Yeah, I was probably like 2 years old. And well, then I moved to California. We move a lot, but
Okay.
it's super fun. Yeah.
For your parents' work, or why were you guys moving around so much?
Yeah, my dad's job. My dad, he runs companies and yeah.
Cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. All right. So, you said two, you moved to where, like, well, how long were you in California? Like, if I'm
Yeah,
just
so I
trying to
was in
find here
California for
timeline
about
wise.
yeah, so I was about in California for about like 5 years. So I probably like, moved probably less. I probably moved to Memphis, Tennessee when I was around 6, 7 years old. And
Hmm.
then I moved here when I was in 6th grade. So kind of like
Okay.
middle school to high school here, and then like elementary school to middle school in Memphis, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, totally. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Just yeah, no, I can note chronologically kind of where you're at when with certain questions, because I want to know
Yeah.
like how you know, obviously how you got to where you are now. When did you start music? Like, or do you come from a musical household?
No, so I do not at all. I've always wanted to sing since I was like a little girl. Like they could not get me to stop singing, I guess, since I was like born. And I kind of grew a love for Disney Channel and Hannah Montana as a younger like kid, which who didn't, I feel like.
Sure, that's like a huge influence.
Huge influence for sure. And I kind of felt like Miley growing up because, in a sense, it was like Tennessee and California. And I don't know, I just had a lot. Um, I just watching it, I've always wanted to sing. And so growing up, when I was like 4 or 5, I'd have like a microphone and I would walk around my house and be singing. And I mean, I literally thought I was her. And then when I turned 7, I want to say I was 7 years old, and we had moved to Memphis, Tennessee. And I saw that there was like a Disney audition that they were having in Memphis. And I remember going, and then I ended up making it as one of the kids that they were like gonna want for a show. And
Wow.
then my parents were like, no, 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 like we're not ready for this. Like they were like, what? Like they didn't even think that, like they were just gonna let me do it for fun. And then they were like, okay, well, how can she start in like baby steps? Like, because they didn't want to just throw me in the and so then they introduced us to Bob Westbrook, who is a
Hmm.
vocal coach out in Memphis, Tennessee, who's he's developed Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, so on and so forth. And so they were like, we'll pass you his contact, and we don't know if he's gonna take her, but uh here you go. And so I remember I met Bob, and it was supposed to be like 10 minutes, and I came out after like 40 minutes, and he told my parents this little girl is going to be my next kid. um
Wow.
yeah, and
That's
so
crazy. That
yeah,
must have been validating for your parents. I mean, obviously,
yeah,
like, not only was this Disney, because I could see when I was growing up, like in San Diego, I'm from San Diego. So when I was growing up there, they would have those auditions, like here on the radio, like,
you don't know
oh,
how real it is, right?
right. Is it like, is this a scam? Is this like
Right.
just some
My parents are
school?
like, no.
Some school that wants money from me, like, you know, like, oh yeah, we'll develop your kid, and essentially you're just paying for these classes and you have no hope of ever doing anything.
Right.
And like I could see that for sure, your parents being like like a little skeptical, but then you get this meeting with this guy that's developed, you know, Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake, all these huge names. Not only that, you meet him and then he wants to work
Right.
with you. Like that's
It
That
was
must have been
huge.
a eye-opening, I mean, like a big moment,
Oh
obviously.
my gosh. Yeah. So it was a big moment for me. And I remember not like I just was really excited about it. And yeah, Bob means a lot to me. And I worked with him for, I mean, up until he passed away recently during COVID, which was really hard for me. He was kind of like a grandfather figure.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awful.
and yeah, I know, but I thank him almost because of him, I'm where I'm at today. So he took me to, after 2 years of developing me, he took me to a competition out in LA called iPop.
Mhm.
And it's a huge convention filled with like managers and agents and producers and so on and so forth. And so I remember going there and we kind of just, it was my first competition. I never sang kind of like that. Like I'd sang around in Delta fairs in Memphis and he kind of threw me around there, but this was my big competition. I remember he did also kind of developed Olivia Holt and had her go to LA. So
Oh,
I remember
wow.
seeing her around Memphis, Tennessee, and being, I don't know, I was always like kind of looked up to her in a way. And I remember Bob telling me, if you win first place, I'll take you to Disney to go hang out with Olivia. And I was in age group divisions like 7 to, I want to say 13, 14. And I was
Okay.
around 9 years old. So I was like, how am I going to win this whole thing? And it was against like 2,000 plus kids. So I ended up making it past different levels and I won first place. And
Wow. Well, real quick, I'm
everything-
now curious on this. So
yeah,
how does this competition go? Like, are you singing cover songs and then
yeah,
kind of advance to the next round, or like,
yeah.
what does it look like?
Yeah, so you're kind of just singing covers and then you kind of there's a bunch of levels to it until you make it to, I guess, like the finals of it.
Mhm.
And you're kind of like sent to these like little rooms and then you go like if you make it to the top, like I forget what number it is, but if you make it to
Sure.
the top, you perform on like this big stage and then that's when like they really they decide who wins first, second, third, fourth.
What was that
Uh
like?
it
I
wasn't
mean,
it was
go
I'd
on a
never
big
done
stage like that.
anything like that before. So I remember being really like weirdly, I wasn't nervous. I've always been the type of person who like I can sing in front of a big group of people and not get nervous about it. But if I'm with like 4 or 5 people, I get more nervous. It's weird. But I remember performing and I just kind of was up there and I'd performed a couple of times before that to advance to that level. And I don't know, I just remember performing up there and it kind of going by really fast and I thought I did great. And then I never thought I would win the whole competition, but I ended up winning and uh that led
What's
to
sorry,
what?
what's last question on this because I'm
Yeah.
curious. What song did you sing?
I sang Rolling in the Deep by Adele.
Oh,
And
wow.
so
Dang,
yeah,
that's a good one. That's a
I
hard one to shoot.
know.
I mean, to
I
sing.
I know. It was a hard one to shoot. The producer I work with now, that's like kind of continuing the story, but I remember he was like, I saw this 9-year-old little girl like singing Adele, like so soulfully. Everybody kind of was like, what is this little girl do? Like, what is going on? And so I don't know. I just hearing that from people just was kind of like, whoa, like I didn't
Dude,
even know
yeah.
that, you know what I mean? It just was kind of super reassuring for me.
Sure.
So
Okay, so you win the competition.
I
You get
won
a
the
trophy.
competition. I did. I got my trophy.
Where's the trophy at? Do you still have it?
I do still have it somewhere in my house. It's like a
Okay.
big microphone. It says iPop. It's really cool actually.
That's
Um,
rad.
yeah, and so I ended up winning and I got over 50, like there was like 60 people in managements, agents, producers, and I got literally 50 callbacks. And I
Oh, wow.
remember Bob had other kids, Mr. Westbrook had other kids that were with him. And we were like, me and my mom were so stressed. We were like, we can't make all these how are we going to do this? So we ran, and I was literally there from beginning of the day to end of the day. And again, my parents were very like, they didn't really want me in this industry. They were always kind of like, I don't know. So the one person that we ended up working with from that competition ended up being into Soul Entertainment. And they were like, oh, well, she'll get to make songs. Like, she'll have originals. She can write, like, you know what I mean? And then we'll do a
Mhm.
video. So my parents were like, oh, this will be fun for her. Like, she'll be able to do this. And then that's kind of it. And that trip I got to hang out with Olivia and I got to go on set and see how Disney was, and it kind of opened my eyes, and I was like, okay, it even registered me more. This is what I want to do. I ended up working with with Mark Indesol for a couple of years, and then he introduced me to C. Ray Roberts, who's on Key Entertainment. C. Ray introduced me to Autumn Rowe, who is a Grammy winning.
Yeah, I love her. I actually interviewed her pretty recently, right after she had won the Grammy.
Yeah, so I have been Autumn kind of turned into my vocal coach after Bob. So Autumn's been developing me since I was 13 years old. And now I'm 18 and we still work together.
That's
and
crazy.
Before her Grammy, before anything, it's so crazy. Yeah. And so she's really showed me what it's like to be a woman in the industry. And she sent me to work with, so we made a song, me, her, and Kizzo, who was also on Jon Batiste's album. And so honestly, just working with all these big people is really mind blowing, and my growth has been insane. And it's all really exciting for me. And I'm excited to see where my career kind of keeps going, but it's so far been awesome.
Was Kiss and Tell the one you wrote with Autumn Rowe?
Yeah. So honestly, all of my songs I've written with Autumn except one or two. I didn't write with Autumn. But honestly, me and her just kind of get each other. We kind of get in the room, and she's family, and she's kind of like, what's going on in your life? And we'll kind of just start talking about it. And then the song idea kind of pops up, and then I'll write kind of half of it. I mean, she'll start writing, I'll start writing, and then we'll kind of come together. And it's so weird. We're almost like always kind of aligned on the same page, and then we'll kind of connect the two. And that's how our songwriting process is. And I like to work with my producers like from scratch. So that way I'm like also figuring out what sound I want. And we kind of created all almost in the same week I finished a song. So
wow.
Yeah.
So how old were you? Sorry, 9, you said, when you won that competition?
I was 9 when I won that competition, and I was 13 when Autumn Rose started developing me.
Wow. So you're in high school? No, not even in high school yet, right? At 13?
No, I was still in middle school. Yeah.
So how are your friends and other people that are attending your school? How are they reacting to this? Are they like jealous of you, or
they're like, what is she doing? Yeah. So I remember, when I was younger, I always thought it was really cool. I was like the 10-year-old little girl who had like the music video and all that. And obviously I always thought it was amazing, but it led to, I guess, I don't know. I feel like kids are kind of jealous and mean, and bullying kind of happens.
Especially middle school. Middle school is the worst, kid.
Right. So I did kind of get bullied growing up. I don't want to be like, oh, I got bullied, some sappy story, but I did.
Right.
And I remember kind of
jealousy, obviously.
And I remember being embarrassed about, obviously I was in a small town in Memphis, Tennessee, and it was a smaller school. And I remember I was kind of like the hit of the school, and like our teachers would like play my music video in class. And like what was it? It was like a competition for like literature, if you want to say, in our middle school. And you would like go around, and we all had these books, and you had to like act or whatever and do it. And it was like the whole grade. And she put my song in it. And I remember like, I was like kind of embarrassed about it, because I was like, oh, now everyone's going to hate me. Like, this is all about me again. And I honestly did. I was like, okay, like, I don't want people to not like me or get annoyed. But in middle school, I feel like obviously you have supportive people in your life. And I had a lot of supportive friends, but I feel like high school was kind of when it bothered me a little bit more. Cause in middle school, I was kind of like, who cares? Like, I'm having fun.
Right.
And everybody's kind of like excited for you. No one really has like a severe amount of like jealousy or meanness, I feel like, in middle school. Like, but in high school, people are like brutal. And it kind of turned into like when great things would happen for me, it was like everybody was all really excited about it, and like, oh my God, Sophia's doing this and this and that. And then they all kind of want to get close to me when big things happen. But
like, tag me in your story.
Right, exactly. Like, oh my God, you're verified now. Let's take a picture. And it's like, whoa, like, I don't know, but I've made great friends around my life, and you kind of figure out who real people are and who the ones maybe you don't need to hang out with so much. So I figured that out growing up, and I have some great friends who will be there for the rest of my life. So
I could see that being so hard. I mean, I'm old, so it's like that wasn't around when I was in school, but like I think about that, like having a massive following on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it may be, and then getting verified, and then having you're still at high school with the same kids, and they might be like, oh, like
Right.
either they're switching, and it's like jealous and upset, or is it now do they want some clout to like have you tag them in posts? You know what I
I
mean?
honestly feel like it's a 50-50 situation. It's like sometimes they're really sweet with me, and sometimes I'm like, oh, like, oh, I don't know about that. But I mean, I've always kind of been nice to everybody. So everybody's kind of nice with me, but it's almost like, oh, this is what I remember actually a big moment in my career was when I had a meeting with Scooter Braun and
Oh
Allison
wow.
Hay. And
Okay.
that was a big moment for me. It was like,
Oh yeah, that's massive.
yeah, I was 15 years old and walking into SB Projects, which is the name of his company. And it was just me, my dad, Allison, and Scooter Braun. And I remember being like, whoa, like it was kind of a like, this is insane situation. And we talked about my music, and a 30-minute meeting turned into a 2-hour meeting. Yeah, so it was huge and exciting. I remember when that happened, uh, I guess in high school, people were kind of like, oh, like, wait, Sophia met with Scooter Braun. Like, okay, this is kind of cool. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like then the being mean kind of has recently kind of started to go away, but it's high school.
Sure.
Right.
So people knew who he was, like they knew who Scooter Braun was and everything, or
Oh
they
yeah.
just okay.
Well, I remember growing up, I even knew who Scooter Braun was when I was like 8 years old, because Justin Bieber had his movie, I think it was like For
Oh
Baby.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
Scooter was in it all the time, and so was Allison. So I remember that was like, I remember watching that movie so many times because as a little kid, I mean, I've always loved music. And so I mean, even now I watch a bunch of documentaries about artists, and I try to learn as much as I can about artists. And so I remember watching Justin Bieber's, I saw Scooter Braun all the time, and I was like, this is such a weird, like, kind of
Right.
world moment. Like, no way I'm in the room with you now. So that was exciting.
That is wow. Okay. So what you said you're 18 now. Did you graduate high school last year, or are you still in it now?
So I'm still in high school. I'm a summer
Okay.
birthday. So I'm still in high school. So I'm a senior in high
Okay.
school. And yeah, so I'm a senior.
Wow. Okay. So when you finish, are you going to go to school for music, or are you just going to move to LA and
Yeah,
make this
so
more reality, or what?
right, exactly. So now I mean, I'm on online school right now, but I still see all
Okay.
my high school friends all the time when I'm in Dallas. But I'm in online school, so I've been going back and forth to LA to do music for 3 years now. I've been online doing it.
Wow.
So yeah, so college, I want to go to college to get a college experience, but at the same time,
You
you
don't
know,
want to leave in like hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt.
right. Well, not college, right? No, I want to just do, I mean, I, my goal is to be able to do both, to go
Sure.
study in LA and do music at the same time. Yeah. So
I love it. Well, talk to me about Kiss and Tell. So that's a new one. You said you wrote that with Autumn
yeah, so
Rowe.
I wrote Kiss and Tell with Autumn Rowe.
Okay.
And that idea was kind of a fun idea. I remember we wanted to do something different, something Y2K. This was actually 2 months after, it was probably a month after she just went to the Grammys. So I remember her being like, Sophia, like right now what's really coming in is Y2K. Like we've got to do it. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And she was like, it's super in your vibe. So we took a lot of inspo from J-Lo, Britney Spears, those kind of artists. And we kind of just, it kind of started from a conversation where obviously I was 17 then. So I'm a 17-year-old girl. I'm talking to a couple of guys. I'm like, Autumn, I don't have time to have a boyfriend. I don't want to keep anything serious with anybody. And all the guys I was talking to at the time wanted to, you know, they were like, oh, I want you to be my girlfriend. And I was like, Autumn, I don't have time. And she's like, Sophia, that's the song. So we kind of just did something fun where it's like, I'm a young girl. I feel like it's super relatable. I'm talking to guys that I don't want to have anything serious with anybody right now. So it's kind of just about having fun and yeah, and just being young.
I love that. That's amazing. And are you like working on a project? Do you have other songs that you have kind of
Yeah.
banked up?
So right now I have a couple of songs that are we're getting ready to release and getting the release plans for it. So I'm super excited. I've like held on to them for a really long time. So I'm excited for these new releases and it's all super exciting.
Mhm.
I'm
And
in love
with
with these new songs.
with COVID and all that happening, I mean, you're obviously still in school. And were you able to, like, how did that affect your writing, or were you writing at that time when that all happened? Like, that mess up anything with your artistic, like what you had planned?
With school, you mean, or?
No, just like in general with your music. Like, were you having to do like Zoom writes, or what, like, how did
Yeah,
you kind of
yeah,
take that on?
yeah. So when COVID kind of happened, it was difficult to get in a writing session. You couldn't really do that. I remember getting into some studio sessions, and it was like we all had to COVID test before we walked in, and then we COVID tested day of
Hmm.
before we kind of like walked in the door. So it's
Sure.
I still got to kind of do it, but traveling was a little difficult, and I didn't like to do it during COVID. So I did a lot of Zooms, a lot of just kind of working on my own like art form. I know a lot of people said that COVID was like a bad time for them, like
Hmm.
artistically. For
Yeah,
me,
I've
I
heard
feel like
that.
it drove me more to kind of work. I had all this time. I had a lot of ideas, and I would just kind of send it over to my producers, and I would just continue to write and just, I used a lot of those ideas when I went back into the studio once COVID kind of is starting to kind of end.
Yeah.
So it was a good time for me specifically. I can't speak for everybody else, but it was good for me.
Right. So you're able to take some of the ideas that you had and then work on. Have you released any of those songs that you're kind of like fumbling around
Yeah.
with ideas with? Okay.
So
Like, which
Kiss and
ones?
Tell was one of them, was one
Okay.
of those ideas. And then Close to Me was another big one that I had talked about. I kind of had a summer love experience before COVID happened. And so kind of right when it started, I was like, this is really what I want to talk about. And it took a lot of planning. I take a lot of time with my songs before I release them. But yeah, but I have a lot that are coming up that were ideas that kind of came around that time. So I'm super excited to release them soon as well.
I love it. And you have a bunch of music videos as well that you've done. Are
Yeah, so
those stuff that you get to like? What is your hand in that?
yeah, so I did a video, I'm Good, it's released. And
Hmm.
that was kind of my first video where I was able to really put my intake and voice of like what I want. And I had done a couple of videos, um, and I just wanted to do something that felt very me and something that I had control over. And so we made sure to do that. And we just filmed a music video for Kiss and Tell and work in the editing process of it. Again, I want to make sure it's perfect before it's released the way I want it. So I'm really involved in this process of it. And yeah, it's taken a minute before we release it, but I want to make sure it's the story is told the way I want it to be told. And I also dance in it, so I do hip hop as well. So I feel
Oh,
like that
cool.
was important for me to kind of show through
Uh-huh.
a video is kind of like, oh, I can dance too. And yeah, we just had a lot of fun, and I worked with some great dancers and choreographers, and it was awesome.
Is that something that you've always been interested in, dancing? Like, were you always a dancer? No.
I mean, I went to classes as a little kid, but like I never thought I was going to be a dancer. And I'm working on it, but I feel like that's part of artistry, kind of being able to do it all, and perform is one of it, one of the factors of being a singer and an artist. So
Hmm.
I've really worked on that side, and I'm ready to kind of
Yeah,
put it out there and show my dancing skills. So it's
I
super
love
fun.
it. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were like one of those, in classes throughout from 5 on. You're always in dance class or something like that. Doesn't sound like that.
No,
Okay.
I'm definitely not that, kind of dancer. I'm not that level of dance, but I am working on kind of just like performing and doing hip hop and uh
My
getting that
6-year-old
part.
son does hip hop dance. He loves that.
Oh, it's so the energy in the room when you go is super fun. Like even at like when I couldn't do it as well, like I just would like to go just to, like see everybody. It's super fun.
Yeah, it's really cool. And with like live performing, obviously you can sing live and do that really well with winning a competition at that young of an age. Is this something that you are going to be doing more of, or have you had a chance to
Yeah.
do that, perform your own songs at
Yeah,
all?
so I have been able to perform around. I want to kind of save making more songs before I do something like a tour, kind of figure that out more. So we're figuring it out currently, kind of that type of plan.
Hmm.
But I would say my biggest performance after my competition was I got to sing the national anthem for a Grizzlies game at the FedEx Forum.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and for the Miami Heat. So that was super exciting, and there was probably like thousands and thousands of people there. I want to say like I don't know how many people are in the FedEx Forum, but it was a sold out
Massive. Yeah.
game. Yeah, it was massive. And it was super exciting. So I loved it. Like the feeling you get performing in front of that many people, it's like a really cool adrenaline. It's like, whoa, like it goes by really fast, but it was
I would think that would be hard, like maybe even harder than doing the competition, because not only like it's just a cappella and
right.
everyone's standing and just paying attention to what you're doing, right?
Right.
I mean,
right.
it's like, okay, everybody stop. It's time for the national anthem. And then go
They're all
ahead.
right. So I remember Bob kind of always had us sing the national anthem. Like for some reason, he was always like, you never know when it's going to come up. So we've got to learn it. And so I'd kind of been prepping it for a while, and I did like my own runs. I have kind of like a different vibrato when I sing, and a lot of people are like, whoa, it sounds really different. So I use that to my advantage, and I kind of made it more of like, I did these really cool runs. And I remember when I heard people scream, and I was like, oh, like I didn't, it made me smile. And so I was like, oh my God, I have to keep singing. But it was the best experience ever. And I watch it back and I'm like, whoa, like I did a good job, which was also kind of takes the nerves away from it. Is like after you kind of finish a performance, I always like to see how I did, because you never know, you kind of black out.
Yeah.
So I did it. I performed it the way I wanted to perform it, which was exciting in the end.
Sure. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sophia. I appreciate it. I have one more. Yeah, one more quick question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Yeah, I would just say to keep doing what you're doing, to keep working on your sound, to keep writing, keep developing yourself, and to never give up, even when it seems like it's hard, even when it seems like you're not going anywhere. Because advice that I was given, that was almost one of the best advice I've ever been given in this industry, is I think it's like preparation is when opportunity meets preparation. Success is when opportunity meets preparation. Sorry. But that's the biggest advice I've ever been given. If you work hard, if you prepare, if you do your best, when you get that opportunity, it's going to be worth the while. So keep working on it.